Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast about the Audubon Park Garden District in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Michael Lothrop, and today we'll be speaking with Richard Minino, drummer, artist, founding member of the design group The Black Axe, co-creator of the V&M, and art director at Rockham. Check out Richard's work online at horsebites.com or on Instagram at horsebites_. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to be a sponsor, please feel free to message me on Instagram at HelloAPGDPod. Thank you for listening. This episode is brought to you in part by Trevor Brown, Audubon Park resident and trusted Central Florida realtor with Fannie Hillman & Associates, proudly serving their clients for over 40 years. For listings, market trends, helpful home buyer and seller tips, email directly to trevor@fanniehillman.com or find him on Instagram at Trevor Brown Realtor. And with me today is Richard Horsebites Minino, artist, founding member of the design group The Black Axe, co-creator of the V&M, and legendary punk rock drummer of New Mexican Disaster Squad, No Friends, None More Black, and some others.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Man, it's going so well. I'm really excited to have you on here. We are neighbors.
Yep.
And I was telling Gabby that you were going to be on, and I was like, the guy that does all the fest art. So she's like, who? I'm like, the guy, he's got the sandworm every Halloween out front of his house. She's like, oh, that guy.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That guy.
Yeah. You are known for many things. All of this art, all of this music, all of these labors of love, and you have found a way to make a living of it, which is so inspiring. I think that's amazing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually ask me about the Halloween and Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
Because currently now I have the leg lamp up. And that's been a big thing where some people just come out there and take pictures or, do whatever. And if I'm that guy now, I'm totally fine with it.
Yes. We're kind of that guy too, as you saw from our house. Yeah. We were a little bit over the top. We were part of the holiday light bike ride in the neighborhood. And when we were going by, like, Gabby overheard a kid say, that house is crazy, which is like really the best compliment you could get. Like, if you look crazy because of all the lights that you have on your house, I think you're winning,
Oh, yeah. Well, I think you defied the norm. I mean, to explain it a little, your lights are coming off of the roof, draping down to the ground.
Yes.
Which no one else does.
No. It's a wall of lights.
Yes. And it almost hides your front door. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's just like, you're just like this block of light at the end of the block. And I told you, I made a joke earlier. I'm nervous that a plane's going to try to land on your house.
We do have
a runway.
We do have a runway on the driveway, and our driveway is huge. So both sides are lit with lights. Gabby added stakes to them. She's been watching all these Christmas light competition shows. So nice. She's gotten really inspired, and she loves Christmas. We both do. Yeah, we always have a live tree. We just kind of go all out because it's super cool for her, and it's cool for me. I get to benefit just from her passion for it. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's these things that that are important to us, and they might be sort of niche and or niche or whatever, however you say that word. And that's been kind of your career thus far, your artistic vision and your all of the things that you've been involved with. It's so cool to hear that you're working with Yardley, who's also our neighbor, just right down the street here.
Right down the street.
I see him working in his garage all the time.
Yep.
I don't see you there often. Do you work out of his garage as well, or?
No. So we both go to a normal 9-to-5 job now, okay. But it's awesome. We work at Rockham Socks. So we were doing the Black Axe, like you mentioned, for the longest time. It was about 10 years of doing that. V&M was sort of just a side thing while doing Black Axe. That was a design firm that we had with Kevin Scully, who was a web guy, Joey Gordon, who now lives in the neighborhood, which
cool.
is crazy because he's been moving. He just came from Oregon, or I'm pretty sure he came from Portland, and now he's back in Orlando. So that's nice. Pretty neat. And then there's also another guy, Derek Deal, who lives somewhat close, but now he works for Universal and does a bunch of stuff. Super talented guys. And after that, Yardley and I, we saw, Black X was just kind of tapering a little bit, and we're just like, Yardley was like, I'm gonna just see if one of our clients, Rockham, wants to entertain maybe me working over there. They've mentioned it a couple times. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, well, put my name in there too. Like, let's see. I live right down the street from you, so let's see what comes of that. And then we just ended up. He's the creative director. I'm the art director. We have an amazing team of people, and we get to design socks. Get to do a bunch of different stuff. Like currently now, I'm just doing tons of like building stuff around the office, which is bringing me like a lot of just joy. I guess it's like I really do love being hands on with stuff. So now. Going there and just being able to like help build the culture of the whole place, and then also flex my artistic skills and grow with them. It's like it's been very positive. It's been very good for me.
That's so cool. Yeah. So are you building stuff like with wood?
Yeah. Or? So I just made a epoxy conference table. Wow. So that was super fun. I've never done that before. That's kind of the nice thing about the place is that they trust me. So they, if I say I think I can do this, they're like, all right, go for it. Mm-hmm. And then I try my hardest to do it. Obviously I make a lot of mistakes, learn along the way. And then I just feel like I added another notch to my belt because I can be like, oh, well, I have confidence in doing this now. It might not be great, but I know I can do it, and I could probably do it better the second time.
Sure. Yeah. It's that trial and error and that like interest in doing it the right way. And I was looking at some interviews that you did online and some of your art, and like that, the gas tank for the motorcycle, the Roach, like so exquisite. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable that can even be done. And I know that was one of your hardest pieces, right?
I should have brought that over.
Oh, you have it still?
I have all the ones that I've entered in those competitions. And that one specifically, just to let people know, I had a roach encased in resin smoking a roach. So I was like, oh, this is some next level stuff right here.
So meta.
Yeah. So I never painted with actual professional paints before that. Uh-huh. And the whole reason was it was a tank competition in California, and it was for a motorcycle show called Born Free. Mm-hmm. And Yardley and I were going to go. We were providing art to Born Free, doing a bunch of their shirt designs and stuff like that. And then one of the companies, Throttle Addiction, who was running an art competition, was like, I want you to be part of the art show. I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I've never done like one professionally before. So like I called up this guy who's called Chemical Candy, and he walked me through the entire process.
Wow.
And he's like, just design some shirts for me, and then I'll teach you my trade. And I was like, okay.
Like a barter. I love it.
It was so awesome.
That's the best.
And he was like, I still look up to that guy. He's an incredible painter. And he just walked me through everything. Took about 80 hours to do that roach tank. And then I ended up winning, which was kind of crazy. And I was just like shocked because there was a guy from Japan. There was a guy from Australia. There's a guy from all over the United States entered in this competition. So it was really good, but at the same time, it almost broke me.
I bet.
Like I was so at my wit's end because I was learning along the way, and I made so many mistakes. It was unbelievable. I was just like, I was pulling my hair out. My wife was like, just stop. And I was like, no, I can't. Like, I can't. I have to keep going. I'm like too far in. And I eventually did it. And then, not that winning matters at all, but it definitely gave me a boost of confidence to go, oh, I think maybe I could do this.
It's very edifying, right?
Yes.
Especially among that kind of competition. I'm sure they looked at yours and they kind of understood why you were the winner. It is a masterpiece. I mean, it's insane.
I think it was more so the idea that people stopped taking things so serious.
Sure.
And it was just like, it made them laugh, which brings happiness. And I think it's just, they were like, yeah, that's it. So I think that's the key to anything. It's like, make people laugh at first, and then it just loosens them up. And then I think they just like
you have a knack for that kind of the art and the comedy, the lightheartedness, lots of Florida themes, lots of motorcycle themes. And I have been going to Fest since I think the 5th one or so. I've only missed a couple, here and there, but Fest is such an important event. It's really a global event, but it happens in Gainesville right around the end of October every year, sometimes the beginning of November. But it's just this iconic thing. It's this beast. It takes place at multiple venues. It's like I usually get a weekend wristband because I want to hop from spot to spot. It almost feels like Halloween, like trick or treating for punk rockers, you know?
Yeah, it's insane. I can't believe it's been going on for 20 years, which is crazy to think about, because I know some people in the scene will definitely remember Gainesville Fest, which was before the fest,
right?
Which was even crazier, because I remember going there and then seeing like Kill Your Idols and Strike Anywhere, and there was like we played Gainesville Fest, I think the last year of that one, which I'm assuming was around 2000 or something like that.
Sounds right.
And I was just kind of more so just in awe to be in a presence of so many bands that I thought were just incredible at the time.
Yes.
So many hardcore bands. Like I remember seeing the guys from Kill Your Idols, and I was like, I've seen them in pictures, you know? And then I ended up in a band with a couple of them, or one of them.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was super weird. But I don't even know where we're going. Oh, the fest. That was crazy because we played the first 10 years. New Mexican Disaster Squad did. Mm-hmm. And then at year 6, Fest 6, is when Tony asked me, would you like to design for the fest? And I actually was like hesitant, and I kind of was saying no, because Chris Norris, who is also known as Stake Mountain, he was the guy in Reversal of Man. He was in, I think, Combat Wounded Veteran. He might have been in that as well. Anyways, he was doing the art for the fest, and I didn't want to step on his toes.
Sure.
Also, I looked up to him so much, like, as an artist. Gonna admit, definitely ripped him off a couple times. Just when I was first doing art, I was like, this guy's art's so fantastic. It was mind-blowing to see the stuff he was putting out. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really want to do it. I also didn't have a lot of self-confidence. And I asked Chris, I didn't even really know him. I was like, is that okay? Tony asked me. I didn't approach him, and he goes, oh, please do it. He is a very
he was ready to relinquish the responsibility.
Yes, he has a charmingly negative attitude on everything, and it makes me crack up, because he's like, I'm done. Do it. I don't give a shit. I'm just like, okay. So I took a crack at it. It did really well. Tony liked it a lot. A bunch of the kids started wearing a bunch of the shirts. I felt good about it because, I got to do something for a big festival. Mm-hmm. And let me see, Fest 6. Was it Fest 6? I think that year I got so drunk that None More Black asked me to be the drummer, and I didn't remember. And I said yes, I guess, because they were like, they texted me later. I think it was Fest 6, and they go, so you're the drummer, right? And he said something about being a snowbird, because they're all from Philly and New York. And then I go, are we starting a band called Snowbirds? And he goes, no, we asked you to be the drummer of None More Black last night, and you said yes. And I was like, oh, okay, awesome.
That's even better news.
Yeah. So it was that was a big surprise to me, and I was like, I guess I'm playing drums for this band. How? I'm from Orlando.
Yeah.
And they would just fly up there, practice for a week, go on tour, then come back, fly up there, go record a song or an album, and then come back. It was super crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah. But it was a great experience.
And you recorded one album with them? Or?
One album.
Okay.
One album, and then one song for a comp that they released later. And then they kind of branched out from there. Now the bass player's in a band called Black Anvil, really awesome black metal band from New York. And then the singer Jason did a few different projects after that. He used to be in Kid Dynamite and some other hardcore bands. And then Colin, he's played guitar in like H2O. He was like touring. He was touring with like tons of bands and just doing his own thing and just doing what he does. Yeah,
I mean, playing at that level and just like recording for Fat Records and things like that. It just, I mean, that's like the dream, right? Yeah. I mean, just growing up, like totally.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, at that point, it was kind of lost some of its luster.
Sure.
Because, like once you're in your 30s and you're on Fat Records, it's kind of like, oh, I know the business, I understand the economics of it all. And at that time too, it's kind of tapering downwards anyways. But it, like you said, it was still pretty awesome to be like, damn, I used to listen to so many of these bands and stuff, and now we're recording for them.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it is really cool. It's funny how the timing does change things though, right? It's like, yeah, it's a bummer it didn't happen 10 years earlier.
Yeah. Also, when you're young, things are just so much more exciting.
Yeah.
Everything is. And I try my hardest to never forget that. Like there'll be someone young at work, and even though they can be really loud and boisterous or whatever, I still want to grab them by their shoulders and just say, don't ever lose that.
I know.
Like, don't ever lose that. Like I used to be so over the top about everything. Now I just I'm just like, whatever.
I think that, we have different energy at different points of our lives, and we just find where we need to put it to like get through things. And it, I think that when we can find opportunities, if we still play music or if we still go to shows, I still get that energy. You know what I mean? I still, it may not be the same experience. I might not be in the pit. But like, I love it so much. It's such a gift to have that in our lives, you know, and to revisit it.
And I catch myself a lot if there's a local show happening. It's like pulling teeth to get me to go.
Yeah.
I rarely go out. I rarely go to any type of events or anything. And then I do, and I go, this is so awesome.
Yeah. Why am I not doing this?
Yeah, all the time. And then that lasts for about 2-3 days. And then I go right back into my old ways. And I'm just like, why do I do this? It's my wife brings me out to shows. She'll like just surprise me with concert tickets or something. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll go. I know the parking's going to be annoying. And then I get there and I'm like, this is so much fun. I love it. I love it every single time.
What I have found for me at least, and this doesn't go for a lot of people, but I have the opportunity to shoot for Orlando Weekly. So like
awesome.
Doing concert photography has brought me back to going to shows.
That's really cool.
Yeah, because then it's like, it's kind of a gig, but also I just enjoy it so much. Even the photography part of it doesn't feel like work whatsoever. And it gives me a chance to get in there and like usually bring a +1. And it's been the best. And I'm like, why don't I do this more often? You know?
What show did you go to most recently?
That would have been Grand Buffet. It was so they're a rap duo.
Oh, really?
And they're like kind of jokey, but they're also like lyrical geniuses.
Oh, that's cool.
And super sweet guys. And they were on a Florida label. So they're actually from Pittsburgh, and they would play here all the time just because like all of their contacts here and everything. And there was like a whole scene of like hip hop rap artists that were like doing that here. So they would all play shows together here, and it was really a treasure. And they just did a one-off reunion at Will's. And I was like, somebody needs to photograph this. And it was wildly entertaining.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they still have it.
Speaking of band stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because I've known of you for so long. Just going to your shows, seeing you around, but we were never like friends.
I was thinking about that.
We knew so many of the same people.
Yeah.
I've seen so many. It's like I'm assuming you're good friends with Mike Roberts because were you in Gray Before My Eyes?
I played in Song of Kerman.
Song of Kerman, that's it.
Yeah.
And I just think it's funny that I've always seen you around. We've always said hello.
Totally.
But that's about it.
I know. And then it's weird, isn't it?
You came up and talked to me at the Krampus thing, and I was like, I think this is the most we've ever talked. And it was maybe 2 minutes.
I know. Yeah. I know.
So I think this is really cool. But I want to know so much about bands like Gabriel, stuff like that, because you were already a fixture in the scene by the time I was going to shows, probably like 96, 97. I was starting to go to shows, and I remember going to the DIY on Mills where like Video Stop, or like kind of right where Papa John's is.
Yeah, it was kind of catty corner to the old Will's pub, right? It was
That's
like right in that little, I
think there was like a Rangers there after DIY was gone. Rangers Dog kennel thing, whatever.
Uh-huh.
You're right. So if I was looking at Papa John's and Buffalo Bill's or Wild Bill's, whatever it was, to the left, there was a strip mall. And then there was like, was there the motel? It was, because there's 2 motels across the street from each other.
Mm-hmm.
There was like the Lock Haven Inn or something like that. And then like, I want to say Flamingo Motel.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Will was just posting photos of that and like the old Will's Pub, just like over there. That was such a great time to get into the music scene too, wasn't it?
Going to that old Will's was awesome. That was the first place I ever got drunk, which is funny because I didn't actually start drinking until I was 25.
Yeah.
But I remember I ordered a Youngling, and they just looked at me cross-eyed. And I was like, everyone started laughing. And I was like, what? And they're like, it's Yingling. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I didn't know.
That's adorable.
Pointing to things at the wall.
I was about to ask, what is in a Youngling?
Yeah.
I mean, that should be a cocktail, really, if you think about it. Yeah.
And there, I have a bunch of memories there too because I also delivered pizzas for Papa John's. Mm-hmm. So I was like up and down that whole strip for so long.
And Mike worked there. And Keith worked there.
Keith Dalrymple.
Mm-hmm. And Phil was there,
Jason Whitey Camp. Phil worked at Papa John's, but not that one.
Okay.
And Yardley worked at Papa John's, but in Oviedo. So like, Alex worked there. He was a bass player of New Mexican Disaster Squad. Sam was a singer of New Mexican Disaster Squad. He worked there. And it was just a rotating door of band guys because we were all leaving and going and coming back, and it was easy to trade shifts and stuff all the time.
What is the connection with like punk rockers and pizza? Because
they can just listen to music in their car all day and never have to buy food.
I agree.
It's like poor kid, dumb dreams, free pizza, best food in the world.
And it's an easy, like, kind of gratifying job too. When I delivered Chinese food, that was my first job. This was in like Longwood, like Sweetwater area. And it's called Panda Express, or no, Panda Chinese. It was not affiliated with the big one. And it was a great job because I just, listened to music, drove around, like got to eat free food, and it's like this is it. Like this is what I want to do.
I still cite it as one of my favorite jobs. And I think because I was young, I was naive. I also just worked just enough for the week. I made just enough money for I know what I had to pay and what things were going to cost me. Yeah. And I wouldn't work for $1 more. And I was like, that's all I wanted because I wanted to hang out as much as possible and then bring pizza to my friends when I got off of work.
Yeah.
Because it was free. And it was a little bit lawless too because it's like we didn't have smartphones.
Right.
We didn't have like things to like all the delivery fees. Those weren't a thing yet.
Right.
It was just strictly minimum wage plus tips, which that was way better than a serving job because we didn't get the server wage. So we got to, unfortunately drive our cars into the ground, but you got to listen to music. And I lived down the street. I lived in Colonial Town. So I would just go home if I needed to go to the bathroom or if I wanted to go watch a TV show. I'd literally go there for 20 or 30 minutes and then come back to work.
Sure. Yeah.
In the middle of work.
I mean, that's the dream job for that time period, right?
It was awesome. But tell me about Gabriel. Like, who was in the band? I have vague memories. You had like a fro.
Yeah.
And you definitely had like the hemp or some kind of choker. I mean, I did.
Yeah. That choker was big in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And it's like cargo shorts, regular t-shirt, choker, definitely some kind of Vans or something like that. And then I pretty much had a uniform.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it was such a glorious time. It is so weird, that we didn't ever, because I mean, I think people just had different relationships then too, right? It's like we didn't have social media to connect us and find like commonalities and things like that. I mean, Seth from Freehand and I were talking about that too. It's like he remembered seeing Gabriel as well, and it's like, we didn't play a ton of shows and we didn't really tour. We played Gainesville and a couple places out of town, but it was a huge band for us, but it wasn't, I mean, we never even made an album.
Really?
Yeah. We had crazy. I know, we had probably like 20 songs, and it was just back when like we recorded 2 songs as a demo, but like just never got it together to get in the studio, and it was just such a different time. So
to me, it seemed like you guys are like big business. And it was just like, because you were established already. You know, like kids went to go see your band. They went to go see, Carlisle was such like a big one. I remember just thinking those guys were like rock stars. I was just like, Jesus. Yeah. I mean, they would pack DIY, especially when it was like on University. And it was just completely packed to the rim with people. And I thought the drummer was just so incredible. I was just like, he's got a DW drum set. I was like, how does he afford that? I couldn't even fathom. Which is funny because then he ended up playing for As Friends Rust, right? Which they're like huge in Germany. Yeah. Like they have such a big European following.
It's wild.
I remember when we toured with Strike Anywhere, they were like, As Friends Rust brought us to Europe the first time. And like introduced us to Europe basically. And because of them, Strike Anywhere had a good footing like in that territory. And they owed a lot to them. And I was like, that's so funny to think like.
Yeah. And Strike Anywhere is so huge now too.
They went on to like do a bunch of big shows. And I just thought that was just what a small world it was.
It is. And like, I feel like Orlando is the biggest small town imaginable. Like we're connected in so many ways to just anybody that we meet, like that's in the scene, especially just having kind of common interests and just getting those backstories, I think is such a cool thing. Like,
there was weird connections too with Orlando. I remember when we were first touring going to Richmond and those kids, I don't know why we got along with them so well, but it felt like we knew each other forever.
They're like sister cities in a way, right?
It is very weird.
Even like Gainesville.
It's Gainesville.
Yeah,
I was going to say, there were so many people that either went to Gainesville from Richmond or from Gainesville to Richmond, and they just kept that connection. And I don't know why. It was like every time we played anywhere in between those two places, it was never a good show. And then we played Richmond, and it was just like the best house party ever.
I bet.
It was like so much fun.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit like that too when everyone in Orlando was moving to Brooklyn. Remember that? That was like a mass exodus. It was just like half the scene left.
Yeah. Yardley was one of those people, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember going to visit him a few times and being like, you live in a hallway. I was like, I just bought a house in Orlando. He's like, what? And I'm just like, I was like, it's the time. And then he came and bought a house. And to us, he felt like he missed the train because, at that time, now his house is 150 or whatever it is, and we're just like, I almost felt bad for him. But it's like, now we didn't have that long-term, vision.
Right.
And my God, what an insane investment, because he got like a better house than I got. And he's like bigger house, bigger yard, everything. And it's just like, man.
And it was your advice that brought him.
Oh yeah. I was just like, we're at the time we were working for Black Axe together. He's living in Brooklyn. He's eating like a pack of hot dogs a week. I bought a house in Orlando, you know, and he's just like, something isn't lining up here, so they got out of there. But,
well,
I think it was a really smart decision just for both of us, but
yeah. And I mean, I love that experience for people that get to live in New York City, and, it's the greatest place to visit. I can't imagine what it would be like to live there. I think it swallows some people up. Some people, it suits them really well. But a lot of people just have to have several roommates, and they're kind of just making it work, right?
Yeah, which is great if you're 20-something.
Sure.
Because you're resilient. You're having fun all the time. I mean, that city basically never goes to sleep.
Nope.
It's like there's always something to do. And I mean, I remember when Yardley moved back to Orlando, he was just like, it's so sleepy here. And I was like, really? I was like, but bars are open till like 2. And he's like, yeah, but bars don't close there pretty much.
Right.
And I thought, oh yeah, you're right.
And
like,
there's always like 50 shows a night. It's like, like how do you even choose
from? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I could kind of understand, but I didn't really have the full perspective he had.
Yeah. But I like it. I know you are born and raised here in Orlando. I like that, I've been here since I was 5, so I'm practically born and raised. And it just the community here and how people look out for each other. I think it's so unique and it's so special, and it is how it should be other places. But for some reason, we just have that kind of chemistry here in this town. I think it's even getting a little bit better. Like people after the pandemic are just like, I need to connect more, you know, I need to like, this like really means something to me. And you only get one life, you know, this is the time to do shit. So.
I agree. There's some weird small town mentality here that I feel like you can leave, come back, and nothing feels like it's changed. Even if the landscape has changed.
Right.
A lot of my friends, even my friend Chris Tomberlin, he left to New York for a long time. Mm-hmm. And he would come back and visit, and there was almost felt like we weren't even catching up, like we just left off from the last time he was here. And now he lives here again. Yeah. And it's just like hit the ground running. It's just hanging out all the time, and it's just back to normal. It's just so weird. It's like we hardly ever even talk about that he lived somewhere else for 8 years. Or I think it was 8 years.
Isn't that the best?
It is. It's great. And I think, like, to your point, there's something about a welcoming vibe here that everyone just feels like, I don't know, it's like I'm back home.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, I mean, people work together on things. There's a lot of collaboration here. There's enough to go around, you know, there's tons of people here. So, you know, people having a small business, it's like they just have to find what it is that people will gravitate towards, what might be a little bit different or a little bit better than the next person. Yeah. But also it's not in a competitive way. It's just kind of like, I need to make this, like, keep this going. I need to do something a little bit different. And there will be enough, you know?
So you said you got this house in 2000. No, 2002.
Yep.
So, I mean, you remember so much stuff around here.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember 1701 Enterprise?
Yes.
How crazy is that? That became Sci-Fi City, right?
Right. Yep.
And then they moved to like near Home Depot. Well, like two parts of that parking lot. I think they like moved in one part where O'Reilly's is or something like that. And then now they're like next to PetSmart or something weird like that.
Yeah.
But I remember going there as a kid and being fascinated.
Yeah.
And I feel like I rarely get to talk to people who have actually had that kind of history here, because it's like most of them were like some high school friends and stuff like that. Yeah. But was there a grocery store or something like that where like the Lovely is now? Wasn't that a grocery store?
I'm told that there was. I don't know if it was in the Lovely's space or not, but I had heard about that. Yeah. And it's like, it's so weird because at the time that I moved in here, really the only other thing that was on my radar was Stardust, you know, because I was just like, this place is so great. Like, they still rented video. Well, they were like kind of getting out of the video business, I think, by that point. But it had evolved with the times, and it was just like, this is like a cool cultural center. Like, you can just meet like-minded people. Great place to hang out. Coffee's awesome. Food's great.
Yeah, they did videos for a long time after the fact. Yeah. But it was cool because it was obscure videos, and it was just like a fun place to hang out, like you're saying. But I can't even remember when they like started or moved in.
Yeah, it was, I think, 1999, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember renting Fugazi Instrument from there on VHS. Yeah. I was like...
That's funny.
I mean, I really should have bought it because I've watched it so many times.
Yeah, for real.
Like really inspiring.
Did you ever see them?
Oh, yeah.
I saw them. Did you go to Firestone?
Yes.
Go see them? Okay.
Red Medicine Tour.
Yes. Yeah. I went to that show. I remember being like, $5. Awesome.
I know. Every time, $5. Yep. Like, I don't know how that sustained. Well, at the time, it was like they could make it work. Yeah. You know, they were totally making it work.
I mean, it was a packed.
It was so
house.
packed.
And some guy was heckling Ian. Is it McKay or Mackay?
Mackay.
Mackay, okay. Someone would kept yelling Minor Threat songs. And then he like did the whole, I got $5 in my pocket. He paid the kid to basically leave. And I was like, oh, this is awkward. Mommy's yelling at daddy, or daddy's yelling at mommy. Oh, yeah, it was so weird. But I remember just being like, these guys are legendary.
So legendary. Yeah.
I got to see the guy in Minor Threat and Rites of Spring and like all this stuff. And I was like, man, this is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. The first time I saw Fugazi, I think I was 13 or 12. It was in the Beecham. It was the repeater tour, And actually,
That's
I think
awesome.
Adventures opened. Adventure in Immortality. Mike
Really?
Roberts band. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. Unless I'm confusing that with when they played The Edge. They played with Shudder to Think. And it was... did you ever go to The Edge?
No, my sister did. So my sister's 2 years older than me.
Okay.
And she would go to a bunch of shows, and she went to the Edge and Club Nowhere.
Yeah.
And like, you know, just a bunch of places around
I saw
town.
Green Day at Club Nowhere, which is
where Kerplunk tour, or no, was it the 1000 something
it
whatever?
was Kerplunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's insane. I remember Chris Sapone was like talking about it at school, and I was just like, who's Green Day? You know, because like they weren't a
They
thing,
had not broken
as a,
yet. Yeah.
very much just like lookout band, just in the scene type thing. I didn't know about them.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing the poster. It was like a Volkswagen Beetle or something like that. And I remember it was so vivid to me. And then when Dookie came out later, I was like, damn,
Yeah.
I should have seen them. But back to what you're saying, at the Edge, and like, oh, you saw Fugazi at Beecham.
Yes.
And it was with Adventures in Immortality.
I believe it was. Yeah,
That's
I'm pretty
wild.
sure. Yeah.
The first time I saw Mike Roberts play, I think it was Gray Before My Eyes at Firestone with like a bunch of local bands. One was called the Schmendricks. It was like a band from like down south. And then there was just a couple other local bands, but he had dreads, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
I was like, who's this guy with a backpack and dreadlocks?
And
so
other than that,
funny.
he looked exactly the same as he does now, too.
Of course.
He's a vampire.
He's a vampire.
Yeah.
And
We won't tell anybody that.
Can't tell anyone.
No.
I've seen
because he
his-
works at Audubon Park School, too.
I know, and I've seen his spawn flying around in the air at night catching mosquitoes, his bats. But
It might have been Mike.
It could have been him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just monitoring me. But yeah, I've known him forever, and I am forever jealous at his non-aging abilities.
It's amazing.
And I think it's because...
I think you've done great too, though, honestly. You've been told that.
But he has not been touched by the sun.
No.
Like,
No.
I told you, he'd go to the beach and wear like tube socks cut off and to cover his tattoos to keep them pristine. And I was like, come on. And it's like,
He knew what he was doing.
he knew what he was doing, because if he didn't do that, they would just look like blobs, or like they would look like a picture of like Lake Ivanhoe or something.
Or he'd burn up because he's a vampire.
That's
true.
true.
That's cracking the code on this.
That's right. I did have garlic out once, and he just took off running.
Yeah. And it's weird that he worked at Papa John's too, but I mean, they didn't really have real garlic there, so it's just...
true. And he wore a big plastic suit to protect himself, like Breaking Bad style.
So I want to talk about some of this cool stuff that you've done. You did a Kiss t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty huge, right?
Kiss. I did Rod Stewart.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I submitted a Beyonce shirt. And this was when we were working for a guy named Mike Ski. He was in that band, Brothers Keeper. Do you remember that hardcore band? They're from New York.
I remember the name.
Not a big band.
Okay.
But he ended up being like the art director for, it was a merch company. I forgot what it was. Anyways, and they were like, oh, you get to do Beyonce. I was like, this is crazy. And this was just me first trying my hand at designing. And I go, how did it go? And he's like, well, they didn't pick yours. And I was like, whatever. And I still got a kill fee, which is awesome. I could do them all day long as you got me that kill fee. You know, I was getting like 50 or $100 just for trying. I was like, this is amazing. But he goes, you know what's funny? They print one of every shirt design. And they have models come and wear them out to her.
Oh, wow.
And they turn around, they
So
do
she
the
got
whole
to
thing.
see it
And
on
she
a
just
model?
says yes, no, yes, no,
Wow.
no, yes. And I thought that was so crazy for someone to be so big that they would make a one-off shirt. And this was before DTG, so they were just doing a screen printed shirt with grommets or like the little bedazzled stuff on it, because you would have to like put that in the design.
Yeah.
And
What a shame that they only did one after all that work too, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, where are those?
Yeah, seriously. They should send you that shirt.
Yeah.
You should write to them.
Yeah, it was through a bunch of stuff like that, doing freelance, where I actually got my name Horsebites because that band All American Rejects.
Oh, yeah.
So I was doing work through another guy named Kyle Baker. He's the one who initially got me like bigger bands. It was like After Strike Anywhere. He saw I was doing some stuff and he goes, do do you want to do some stuff for a band called Fall Out Boy? And I was like, oh, sure. They were really small at the time. The shirt took off, and I was like, oh, that's great. And he goes, I think I was charging like $150 at the time. For me, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, they sold $75,000 of merch that night. And I was like, what? And he goes, they had 2 FedEx trucks come in one show. And I was like, are you kidding me? So after that, I just started like pumping up the prices. Like, I cannot believe they make that much money. And anyways, to go back to the thing, it was All American Rejects. And their manager couldn't remember my name. So my email is Horsebites Dog Cries. It's from a band called DI. Back in the day, just old band. And they had an album called Horsebites Dog Cries. So I was 16. I was like, that's going to be my email.
Nice.
Of course, I'm still stuck with it to this day. And the guy couldn't remember my name. So he's just like, hey, Horsebites. And I was just like, oh, yeah. And then like he kept calling me that. And I was like, I kind of like the way that sounds.
It sounds great.
It had a story, which I didn't realize till later.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's how I got the name. And I was doing stuff for them. And I completely lost track now. Or was it just about doing merch and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cool
Beyonce,
merch that you've done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you told me because I was wondering about the origin of the name. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I have a tendency to blabber on.
I love it. No, this is what this medium is for, really, Yeah, it's funny because like Tipso is a nickname that I have, and it was never meant to be a nickname for me.
Where did it come from?
It's my phone number. My phone number is 71Tipso. It still is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you could just tell people that, and it was way easy for them to remember.
That was it. Yeah, it was like really important back then. It was like flip phones, like Nokias, and it was like my number has to spell something memorable. So we made this like adult hotline, like sultry voicemail announcement thing.
What?
A friend of mine, Brent Elliott, and he... like did this like Barry White voice, like deepened it. He's like a computer genius. So like we made this like saxophone, like just like, it was like this adult hotline when those were really big. And it was just the Tipso line. It was the hottest Tipso line anywhere. Yeah. And then somebody, like one person called me Tipso, and it was like, it just stuck.
That's awesome.
So I couldn't get rid of it. So very similar to your email story.
Yeah. That's super smart. I find it shocking how many numbers I can still remember, but it's all my friends' parents' numbers because they're all living at home. So I was just like, I would remember all of their house numbers, because
it's adorable.
Like, but you have to. Like back in the day, it's like
right.
You just remembered at least like a dozen of the important ones.
Yeah, and I still got them.
Most of them.
I think I probably got a couple as well. Yeah.
And you said you moved here when you were 5.
Mm-hmm.
From where?
So we were from Maine originally.
Whoa.
Yeah. Huge, drastic move.
Difference.
Yeah. My parents, particularly my mom, was done with the cold. So it was like, it was a job thing, but also it was like, okay, we can't do this anymore. It's lovely to visit, but I mean, you have to be pretty resilient to get through those long winters.
Yeah.
We don't have anything like that here. People complain about the summer in Florida, but it's like, just go north and hang out for, all of those months of gray and like almost no sunlight, and it's too cold to go outside. Like,
if it's
good here.
Gray out for 3 days, I'm in a deep depression.
Yeah.
I am so sensitive to blue skies and warm weather.
Yeah.
And it's totally ruined me because, I mean, everywhere else is like that.
And you're not going to get this it's really true.
It's weird. I remember when Yardley was living in Brooklyn, I'd go there and like 4 o'clock, Jesus, 4 o'clock, it would be pitch black outside. Not just dark, but pitch black. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
It's like, this is not for humans.
No, I mean, it tests a whole different kind of metal, right? You're just like... Yeah, we need sunlight.
Yeah. He was saying a lot of people have those special
like
windows.
Sun lamps or something.
Yeah. It's like it almost looks like a window.
Mm-hmm.
And it's producing like a natural light effect so your brain can actually feel like a human being.
We have to trick ourselves into believing that there's sunlight.
Yeah. I've been actually doing that, waking up since it's so dark in the morning. I usually get up around 6. Mm-hmm. But we have like a lamp in our room that gradually turns on at like 5:45, 5:50, but it's like a sunrise. So it just gradually gets brighter in the room and it glows. And it's such a better way to wake up.
Yeah.
Instead of just a drastic, like waking up from a sound.
So it doesn't make sounds at all?
No.
Just like, oh, that's perfect.
If I'm supposed to wake up at 6, around 5:45, it starts to glow and it's like a radiant glow. And by the time it's 6 o'clock and my alarm's going off, I'm already like kind of just rolling around at that point anyways, because my body's just sensing that there's light in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I wake up with the light. I'm usually up at 7:30, so it's like that light. It just kind of teaches you like this is time to get up, right? Yeah. Let's talk about band stuff. Are you playing music currently?
No, this is the longest I have ever been without playing the drums. So it's been about 2 years since I've touched a drum set.
Wow.
And I have 2 sets. One is at my house and one is at my mom's house.
Yeah.
But I don't feel bad about it.
Okay.
I started playing, with like neighborhood friends, like one of my best friends, Jeremy, like me and him started a band called Explicit Noise when I was like, I want to say 15, and he's like 3 years younger than me. So he was 12 at the time.
That's awesome.
And it was so much fun because I was just learning how to play drums. Still didn't even really know how to use a kick pedal. I was just kind of playing like a rhythm.
Sure.
Just playing Ramones covers and stuff like that. It was fun. And we were just having the time of our lives. And then pretty much just played from that moment on until about 2 years ago. Wow. Or actually, about probably like 4 years ago.
The pandemic, we have to add 2 years.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. That one screws it all up.
It does.
But like actually playing drums, because I used to just play it by myself, and then it just kind of fell off. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it doesn't bum me out at all, because I'm really glad I got to do it. And at the same time, my interest kind of just waned. It was just like, I'm ready for other stuff now, especially when I started painting like tanks and stuff. I was just like kind of moving in that direction of more personal art stuff anyways.
Yeah, it's like you have to channel that energy somewhere, right?
Somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that's always the tricky thing, I think, with people that grow up having sort of that one thing that's their art. It's like, for me, photography definitely kind of took that over for when like my band split up, and that was quite a while ago now. I have no concept of what years things happen.
Yeah.
So I would be the worst historian. But it's part of why I do this podcast, because I can get things and I can go back and listen, because I won't remember it necessarily, But yeah, just kind of shifting from, one thing that takes up your time, and you were doing so much touring too. I mean, your band's played like all over the States and even overseas.
Europe, a few times. And it's weird because it's part of your identity.
Yeah.
For a long time.
It really is.
So like you said too, also when you channel your energy into something, I tell anyone that doesn't have a hobby, do something, because you have to have something to look forward to.
Right.
And I think I always look forward to either practice or recording or playing shows or whatever. And once that's over, you kind of lose a little bit of the sense of like, well, what am I doing now? It's like kind of weird.
Yeah.
So did you ever experience anything like once your band stopped that you felt like you were kind of like
drifting in a way?
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe not for the worse though.
No, I know. Yeah. I think it's a good point. And I know, like, at my job, I've talked to people who are like getting ready to retire, and I was like part of like a mentoring program and just kind of figuring out how to kind of transfer knowledge of people that are leaving soon and things like that. And then people who are just coming into the fold, kind of getting them trained up. So like, I remember one conversation specifically about somebody who was very, very present at their job and very like had a prominent position, very good guy. And he was really nervous to retire because he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my time.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't really have those hobbies. And it's like, I think, I mean, you can fill your time with any kind of hobby. Yeah. You don't have to be good at it necessarily. And I think, we're kind of getting to that point where maybe people are realizing that more. It's just about the experience of doing something. You don't have to master it. it's just like, it's interesting to do stuff, right?
You need purpose.
Yeah, we do need
purpose. You have to have purpose, and it's what gives you fulfillment. It's like, I am constantly seeking fulfillment because I used to do my own art. Now I have a boss, which is totally fine. But sometimes I definitely want to, just make my own stuff. But then I also find I don't have a lot of time too. And the time that I do have, I love spending with my wife and my dogs and my friends.
Yeah.
It's just like, those are the things that bring me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
But I do always feel like there's a chunk missing that brings me fulfillment. And that's why I'm constantly like, what's next? I need a new hobby. I need something.
Yeah.
I have to look forward to something.
It's exciting to even ask that question too, right? Yeah. It's like, I mean, it can be stressful. And like, back to your question, I don't remember a time of really ever being like stressed about it. You know what I mean? I think that, I've always put a lot of time and effort just into relationships in general. So I think that, when the band was the main focus, I was able to balance those other things that were important to me. But, it was so great to be just doing that, and like creating music, stuff that, is unique and nobody's heard before, and like we're excited about. Like, everyone in the band is like super stoked on it.
It's also kind of crazy to think you're making music, or not even music, you're creating things with other people. That's tough enough on its own.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. It's like, you have to balance your ego.
Sure.
Because if someone says, well, I don't like that, you kind of have to swallow it. And then maybe you do realize, oh, it actually wasn't that good. And then it's kind of like what I do at my work. I have to really swallow my ego all the time, because I've been so used to saying that whatever I do goes. Now it's not that, it's whatever we do kind of goes. It's like whatever we say goes. It's like us as a collective effort now. So that's taught me a lot. I've learned a lot from that and just grown, I would say, wiser from it.
It's true, though. I mean, we learn how to work in a collaborative environment. I think that being in a band, I think for a lot of people, sports is that too. It's that sort of team dynamic, and just knowing the personalities and people's strengths and kind of like playing to their strengths. Like, that's how everybody succeeds ultimately.
Yep.
Right. And just having that communication and encouraging people. And I think that I learned so much from being in bands, you know, and there were some bad band breakups that, still haunt me.
Yeah.
But it's like, I learned from them as well, and it's like, and we were young, and it was like all stupid stuff too.
It's always the dumbest stuff.
It's the dumbest stuff.
I think even now, even being older, like whenever I've had a disagreement with maybe the owner about one of the things, I even brought this up the other day in front of everyone, just being like, I feel foolish about it. It's like, I look back on that, go, why did I even think my thing mattered that much, or that it was like that great of an idea or whatever? I look back on it now and I'm like, I always have to tell myself, like, welcome every criticism, because it only makes you better.
Yeah.
And it's so hard for me to kind of let that soak in sometimes. But when it does, I'm like, oh, that was the right move.
It's so hard to not have somebody's opinion become what you are, right? It's like, I so value other people's opinions, and I'm a very empathetic person. I'm kind of just like sensitive to what's going on. I'm like definitely a people pleaser in that way, and like, it can be good, but also it can be detrimental. It can keep you from being your authentic self, or I don't know, you feel like you're stretching in ways that aren't healthy, and then you realize it later on to the relationship, and you're just like, this really isn't good for either of us. Like, this isn't like sustainable.
Maybe that's why hobbies are so good, because you are doing, maybe it's the balance.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's all the collaborative stuff like we're talking about, but then when you do a hobby that you're just creating something on your own, maybe that's why that balance is so perfect. I mean, I'm constantly seeking something to do in my free time.
Yeah.
And I think I drive my wife nuts because of it. Because I'm like, I got this new project, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, whatever. She's heard it a million times.
But it's so like your identity too. It's like a very important part of your identity. It's like she fell in love with that as well.
Yep.
You know, it's the total package.
True.
And I think that that's what a healthy relationship is,
Yep.
you know, and that's the cool thing, because she has her things as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I know she works with Kelly's, the ice cream company.
Yes. She's an operations manager. So she was one of Kelly's first employees, because when Kelly was just doing a truck, Kristen reached out to her. I was like, hey, you know, I'm going to pastry school. I would love to, you know, just see if you're ever interested, if you need any help or whatever. And Kelly reached back out to her. And then I think that was right when they were getting the Korean Drive store going. Yeah. And then Kristen started working there. I was like, I think one of the first employees, and they just like kept going up the ladder, because I think she was growing with Kelly's and kind of like aiding them with all the help they needed, and then learned so much. And now they have like, I don't even know how many stores. I want to say 11, but including counters. So I don't even know. She tells me a number and I'm like, what?
I know.
It doesn't even sound believable.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it just all started right here in this neighborhood. Yeah.
Right here.
I know.
Super cool. Yeah. Kelly and Scott have been nothing but extremely nice and like just giving. And I can't even thank them enough, because they've made Kristen's life just that much better.
I love hearing that. Nice. That is so important for a company to be sustainable. Just it's like how you treat your people.
Oh, yeah.
It gets around too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I just there's a way to do it right.
Yes.
And we know like some of these businesses like really do it right, and like that's what you want to support, right?
Yeah, it goes a long way.
I like Steve at Gideon's. I hear only positive feedback about that experience working there too, and it was so cool to talk to him about just his philosophy, and you know, just like making it a fun work environment and people actually get to be themselves.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We talked about him briefly at the Krampus thing.
That's right.
And you said he owned the Uberbot.
Yeah, man.
Which is so crazy, because I never knew that was the guy from Gideon's. And I thought that was so cool, because I was telling you, he was so nice to me. Just, first of all, even like asking me to be a part of one of his art shows there. I was like, this is a big deal. You know, it's like one of Orlando's only like niche art toy stores. Like it was like, it was so rare. It was like a comic shop,
but also it was an art gallery. Yeah. And like, we didn't have
hardly any of that.
No.
Especially he was kind of ahead of Orlando's time on that whole thing. And he was always just really nice to me. I always remembered him. Just being like, that guy was really cool.
Yeah, I haven't heard a single bad thing about Steve, and meeting him was such a pleasure too. It was like,
that's great.
Yeah, and he talked about Enterprise as well. And
really?
How that was such a huge inspiration for him. Yeah, and how the owner there actually like gave him props for Uberbot.
Really?
And he was like, that's one of the best compliments I've ever gotten.
That's cool.
I know, right?
I used to go, do you remember what it was like inside?
I do.
Because it was like they obviously had big rows of comics, but they also had masks up on the wall towards the ceiling. And I remember going with my Uncle Frankie, and like he would drive me over there. We'd go inside and I would just stare at the masks. It's like, even if they were $20, they're still way out of my price range.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I remember buying like some model kit. I feel like it was for like a AT-AT for Star Wars. And I never put it together because I'm terrible at models. But I stared at the box forever. I was like, this is so cool. I love it.
Do you still have it?
Maybe. It's probably at my mom's house. She kept everything.
I think 2023 is going to be your year to put that together. You know?
I would love to try and do that again. Now I know I could do it.
Yeah.
But back then, I had no one to tell me, like, you know, here's this. You need glue. You need enamel paints. You need all this stuff. I was just more into the box and packaging more than anything.
Yeah, you wanted that finished product right away.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that growth mindset is a thing that comes up constantly since I heard about it, actually doing an interview on this podcast as well.
About when you're doing stuff like models and stuff? And like
Yeah, I think just not being afraid to be bad at something, or essentially adding yet when you say, I don't know how to do that yet.
Yes.
And like, it's such a helpful thing, because I am definitely that way. I'm hesitant to start something if I don't know if I'm going to be good at it.
Yeah.
And even just like home improvement projects, I'm like, I would just rather pay somebody to do it right than like botch it, like take my time doing that and then feel terrible about it. It's like, it's something that I have to get over, but I just haven't yet. You know what I mean?
I get over it, I guess, in a couple areas. In other ways, I don't.
Yeah.
The home improvement stuff, my dad never really taught me. And I think he was maybe he was just trying to, I don't know. It's probably because I had no interest. You know, like I really didn't.
Yeah.
I also didn't have a need, you know, like, but then I got a house.
Yeah.
And then I needed to know how to do certain things.
It really helps, doesn't it?
Yeah. And you kind of just had to do it just, you know, by the seat of your pants, because it's like I didn't know how to fix anything. So luckily, things like YouTube, it's like a library of just knowledge now, like where I can literally go, how do I install a gate? How do I put up this fence? How do I fix this? You know, this appliance. And
usually like the best video will rise to the top too, right? And that's you'll get advice that's, you know, the best in the internet universe.
But it's given me confidence because I do, and I go, oh, that wasn't even hard.
Yeah.
I was like, why was I so scared? I didn't even, it's a few bolts. And then you do hire a guy to come over and you go, this guy's a dingus. Like I can do this. And you know, it's people like Yardley and my buddy Colin in Philly, who's in No More Black. They were the two people to always go, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it. And I was just like, yeah, that's a great way to think.
That's cool.
And he was never, ever scared about that. Just trying it. And it taught me so much. That I thought was going to be like witchcraft or something. And then when I did, I was like, oh, that really was not hard at all. So now I'm like, I'm going to build out my back porch. Like, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff now.
Yeah.
Like, it gave me a whole crazy different confidence level.
It does. Yeah. It's amazing. Just, I don't know, somebody kind of pushing you to do something. And that always seems to be a common theme in interviewing people as well. And, you know, like you were saying with Fest.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you needed that like nudge. You didn't feel like you were ready to do that, but like, are we ever ready to do anything, right? Just kind of jump into it.
You're just trying to jump a mental barricade.
Yeah.
That's it. And you get over it and then you go, oh, now I'm just realizing I just wasted time because I wasn't doing this earlier on.
Yeah.
So I have to try and remind myself that anytime I approach something new, just be like, just do it. Even if you screw it up.
And like putting the work into like research and learn it too is such a huge piece of it.
Which I enjoy.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm learning about something I'm actually interested in. And then I also gives me more confidence to know that I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it just makes life more interesting. And yeah, there's so many things that we can be doing. And I'm constantly trying to like just reshape my mindset about these things too. Cause it like, I don't know, growing up, it was just kind of like, you do what you do and you try to do it well. And then like, you just don't really think about all the other things that you're not doing necessarily. It's just they're like, those are not going to be part of my life. You know, I'm just going to like keep my head down and like do this cause I love it. Which is cool, but also it closes you off to a lot of things. I feel like. Yeah.
No, it's getting older.
I know. We're
like
older. We're getting a little wiser. Right?
You're opening your mind. It's just being less pessimistic about things, like, or trying to be less pessimistic and just trying to accept more as they come along. And it's just getting older.
Yeah. I think about it also in terms of like, if you're driven either by fear or by love, you know, it's like fear will keep you from doing things or it'll make you do things a certain way. But if you love something, if your heart's in it, you're really going to like do it better. So kind of always start with love.
Yeah.
And like,
that's good.
Yeah. I always try to frame it that way. I find it to be really helpful.
That's awesome.
And just use that energy. Cause like, I never got nervous playing shows like ever.
Really?
Never.
Oh man.
Never ever. And it wasn't, I don't even know like where it came from. Cause sometimes we weren't like rehearsed enough to really, we would pull it together, but I have stress dreams now that we have like a reunion show and none of us have
Really?
even listened to the songs.
Oh my God.
I know, it's weird. It used to be school dreams, but now it's band dreams.
I'm fascinated that you were never nervous.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy because I felt like the smaller the show, the more nerve-wracking it was for me.
Interesting.
Because it felt so much more personal.
Sure.
Whereas like if you were on a big stage and you're far away from people, it almost felt like you were so separated that you weren't even at the show. Like I was just like, oh, I'm just playing in front of my bandmates now.
That's cool.
But
that's really interesting.
It's weird. It was always when we played small local shows where I had like a knot in my stomach. That was tough.
Well, the likelihood of like you having to talk to somebody after the show like is higher.
Oh, yeah.
Like...
yeah, there's definitely a lot of punishers at shows just wanting to talk your head off and everything.
Did you ever have a show that like really went off the rails that you're
all
like,
the time.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah. I remember one time we played in Italy and our singer was like partying the night before and his voice went out.
Oh, so God.
It was not only could he not actually get sound out, it was like making a cracking, like whistling. It was just like, oh, and I was just like, oh my God.
That's scary.
So embarrassing. This is so bad. I mean, not to shit on Sam or whatever.
It happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
And I felt bad for him because he's the one who has to sing.
Yeah.
It's like I can play drums and hit them and it's going to sound the same.
Yeah.
But if your vocals, which is part of your body, it's not working right, there's no changing that.
No, there is not. And I think drummers are wired very differently for a lot of reasons. Like you have all of this gear, and if any of it goes wrong, so much gear. You're like the last to finish loading in and the last to finish loading out. It's heavy. It's like you're like just caked in sweat afterwards. It's not glamorous. You sit in the back of the stage. You mostly are obscured by other people who are standing up in front of you. It's kind of a thankless job, right? In a way.
Yeah.
But if you do it well, it's a really killer experience. It's the best thing in the world.
Experience.
Yeah.
Being a drummer is awful because if you mess up, everyone knows.
Yes. It's the only instrument that you can't get away with messing up.
Yeah, you're the timekeeper.
Yeah.
So everything falls off the rails if you screw up. And it's for the most part an acoustic instrument. So everyone's plugged in and they can just turn the volume up.
Right.
You have to actually hit harder. Yeah. And it's just so much more like draining than people realize. Like I remember my arms would lock up because I'd try to play so hard in the beginning and use all my energy. And by the time it was like fourth song, fifth song, I was locked up. I remember it was hard to like move my arms out from my elbows. It was like, oh.
I know that feeling.
Oh, it was
You don't
awful.
even feel it anymore. You're just like kind of like your shoulders are going into it because you can't even like move
and then those
fully.
Hurt. Or playing outdoor shows where it never sounded loud enough.
Right.
And you're just like, I can't hit these any harder.
Nope.
And I was like, oh, it sounds like crap because we're like on a concrete driveway somewhere. And it's just like, so many nightmares of stuff like that.
But it was the best too, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It's the only way I got into art. I never looked to be an artist. I never looked to be a designer. I played drums. I didn't even consider myself a musician. I just considered myself a drummer in a punk band.
Sure.
But I did the art for my band. So then another band saw it and goes, well, I like that. Can you do that for me? And I was like, sure. And then I did it for them. And then that's how it all grew out. And I was like, it's just so weird to think that one thing led to a completely other thing. Because I legit swore I was going to be a Papa John's delivery driver my entire life. Yeah. And I was fully okay with it.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm just going to be in a band. I'm going to deliver pizzas in my free time.
Yeah. It worked so well for you during that time period, right?
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was perfect. The most flexible job. And that was just going to be me. And I also had no confidence in like art, but it didn't matter for my band because I wasn't charging anyone.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's free, whatever. But it's funny to think that it just completely stemmed off of that.
I think that there's such a lesson in that too, of just like finding those, like there was a need for art to be created. Mm-hmm. So you filled that need. You're like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And it's like the stakes were pretty low.
Yes.
It's not costing anything. So everybody's going to be super happy because they got
it for free. You can't complain.
Right.
Yeah. That's the worst when you do something for someone for free now and they complain and you're just like, oh, no. this is what you're getting. I'm sorry.
Never work for free.
Yes, no.
I have a hard time not working for free. But it's like, I would love to barter for everything. You know, I would love if money could just be taken out of the equation. We all bring value.
Yeah.
You know, I realize that's not realistic and there's no way to get off the dollar, but it would be so great.
I still barter to this day.
That's great.
I still go, well, I'll design this for you if I can get one of your products, you know, and it works out great because to them, their product doesn't cost them that much, but the value of that product is what I want. And it's just like, that's how much I would like to get paid for this job anyway. So it works out so good for both of us. They get a design that they can use and sell in the future forever. And then I get one of their things that they're selling or making.
That's perfect. And the thing that people don't factor in when they're paying for art, sometimes they don't factor this in, is just the amount of years that you've put into it. And it's like, yes, like this piece might only take you, 6 hours or something like that. But the reason it only takes you that long is because of all of your experience and what you bring to it. So it's hard to put a price tag on that. It's like a per hour thing, or like how big it is, or just different things. And it's like, that's what makes art so difficult to price or to commoditize,
it's
right?
Subjective. It's like one person could hate it, another person could love it. So I guess it's just worth however much someone will pay for it.
Right. And I think just like growing up in like the punk hardcore scene, it was just kind of rejecting a lot of traditional ideals too, right? And not valuing money, but valuing people and morals and things like that. It was like a great way to grow up too, right?
Yeah, I never really thought about that. I think that brings up a good point about when you're in a scene like the punk and hardcore scene, you're really going for a vibe on a lot of these things like aggression and all that stuff. But at the same time, you don't want to look old and stale. So you're constantly trying to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. So, I mean, that probably helped me out with a lot of mindset stuff for my art to be like, how can I be like the way Stake Mountain, Chris Norris, made me feel with his art was the way I wanted someone else to feel about my art. Yeah. And I was just like, I want to be blown away. I want to be to the point where I see it and I laugh because it makes me feel a crazy way. Yeah. You know, like when you get a real emotion out of something, it's like when you hear, this was Rick Rubin was talking about this, when he would listen to a band that he heard for the first time and it blew him away, he would actually laugh. And I resonated with that so much because I used to do that where I'm like, can you believe this? And it would make you laugh because there was so much emotion you didn't know how to deal with.
Yeah, it just like, it tickles your soul, right?
Yeah, it was incredible. And I'm like, if you can ever channel that to someone else, I mean, that's the biggest reward.
Or inspire that, like in that way. It's like he kind of created that model for you. You're like, I want to be like that. I want to like be working at that level.
Yeah. That was incredible.
That is so cool. These are the stories that I love to capture because it's like we don't often think about this. And it's like, I don't know, we're also kind of raised to like not really talk about ourselves too much. But it's like we all have pretty cool stories to tell, right? And it's like just taking the time to do that. So, and thank you for taking the time to do this.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the websites that people can go and see your art at?
That's a good question. Actually, the most art I've probably ever produced is now through Rockham.
Okay.
So I have literally done thousands of designs. So it's just all socks. Yeah. But we've got to do some of the funnest stuff. And just to talk about them real quick. Yeah. I started, it'll be 6 years. Well, Yardley and I started there 6 years in March coming up. So we started there. They didn't have any licenses at the time. And we joined in, started doing a bunch of stuff just our way, just a really small group of people there, really making some magic happen. Eventually caught the eyes of like WWE, and then we got them, and then Nickelodeon, and then we went to Lucasfilm and Disney and Pixar, and it's NBA, NFL, NHL, and it's been growing so much, but to have the opportunity to do stuff for things that I loved so much as a kid. Like, for instance, bringing back the Star Wars thing again. Yeah. So I was obsessed with Star Wars as a kid.
Same.
And then getting to actually do stuff for Lucasfilm where I was drawing my own art where we were making all over like Yoda socks, let's just say, and it was just his likeness.
Mm-hmm.
It had to go through a team of artists at Lucasfilm.
Wow.
And they have to approve it.
Yeah.
And then once it's approved, I'm like, damn, I just went full circle.
Yeah.
Like if my 8-year-old self, watching Empire, like could ever just be like, oh my God, me in my 40s is going to be doing art approved by Lucasfilm. Like I would have never have believed it would have done that. So
it's incredible.
Yeah. It's seeing those things like where I just look at it and I go, it almost doesn't even feel real. I'm almost robbing myself of emotions when I look at it because I just go, I don't think it's real. It's like it doesn't even look real to me. So it's so weird.
I know. If only we could have like a time machine, and go and like show your young self, like, hey, you're doing pretty good. Check this out.
Yeah.
Like this
is. It's cool. So I would say like my majority of art would definitely be Rockham.
Yeah.
Because I've done so much stuff through there. So if you ever want to just go dig through stuff now, saying that, we've also gained a lot more employees there too and people on the team. So we got a handful of people in creative now that are just machines. Like they came in and just dominated me, where I'm to the point where I'm learning so much from them now. I'm just like, how do you do that? Like, how do you do all these techniques and all these things? So major shout out to them. But so it's a mix of all of our stuff. It's always a collaborative thing.
Yeah.
But you'll see a lot of the hand-drawn Star Wars stuff on Rockham, as a majority of the stuff is like, that's my bread and butter.
So does that start with like a drawing or painting, and then they basically scan it and they create, it's just like it's all done sort of in the fabric itself. It's not printed on the socks.
How it's applied to the sock.
Yeah.
We do it in-house, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, wow.
So we make them to order.
Okay.
So if you bought a Star Wars sock tonight, literally tomorrow, they'd come out on the print sheet, go into the press. We have a blank sock, gets pressed onto the sock, and it's sublimated onto the sock. And then it's done in like a matter of minutes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a fascinating process.
Yeah, and it's all done locally here.
And that's the thing where I kind of get shocked sometimes because people don't even realize Rockham is like an Orlando company.
Wow.
And it's like this guy started it out of his UCF dorm room in his tub. Like he literally was dyeing socks for the UCF basketball teams by hand. Mm-hmm. And then people were like, where'd you get those? And he's like, I made them. And they're like, well, I'll buy them. And then he just starts going to buy like Nike Elite socks from the mall and then dyeing them and selling them and dyeing them, selling them. And then he just got his own clamshell press. And then it just all grew from there. And now it's like all the stuff I mentioned earlier.
It's wild. I was just at Enemy Ink today picking up some prints for, I'm doing a couple events in January at Stardust. Speaking of local music history, just like Orlando bands. So it's all art from basically shows and albums and things. And the art opening is January 8th at Stardust.
Yes. I need to look for some stuff. I don't have a lot of stuff.
I mean, I'd love to have just one of your pieces for it.
Does it have to be for local art or for a local band?
We might expand if it's Florida shows.
Okay.
Because Charlie did give me some stuff that is like national acts that played locally here, and it's really cool artwork. We were trying to keep it like specific to like celebrating the bands of, Orlando's past. So if you do have something like that.
I'm pretty sure I have a pen and ink drawing of an old New Mexican Disaster Squad shirt. So
cool.
I'll bring that in.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. I mean, we don't spend a whole lot of time talking about these things. And I know that this is a shared experience from everybody that was in the scene. And it's still like, I don't know, it makes me so happy to like reminisce about that stuff. Yeah. I know some people aren't the most comfortable with nostalgia, but I think it can be helpful to like, it's awesome. Come up with new things too.
It's history too.
It is.
It's what shaped a lot of these people. I mean,
yeah.
The fact that me, you, Mike Roberts, Yardley, there's probably like 4 other people here that played in bands next to each other that live in this neighborhood.
Totally.
It's kind of crazy to think.
Like our drums were like next to each other, like getting ready to load in. Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
It's super weird.
Small town
it is
factor, I guess.
The biggest small town ever.
I agree.
Well, Richard, Thank you so very much.
Thank
This
you
has
so
been
much.
such a treat.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And we'll see you around the neighborhood.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hello, APGD. A neighborhood podcast is brought to you in part by Stardust Video and Coffee, Audubon Park's beloved neighborhood cafe, bakery, bar, and meeting place, located at 1842 East Winter Park Road. We're also sponsored by Red Light Brew Pub. Founded in 2005, Red Light is widely known as the source for world-class imports and microbrews, a wide selection of natural wines, plus award-winning beers brewed in-house. A full kitchen is in the works with an amazing menu by Chef Jess Tantalo. Located at 2810 Corinne Drive, please check out Red Light for all things beer and wine and soon food. Our theme song is by Christopher Pierce, and special thanks to Trey Hester for all of his help in making this podcast a reality. We do hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please click subscribe and leave a review if you'd like. We'll see you next time.